Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. January 15th, 2025. This is, of course, the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Simulcast, usually on KLRN. It might be a little delayed tonight. This will most likely be my new home. Schedule changing in all of the rest of my life. Looks like it's going to be Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. So I guess it's a little celebratory. This is my new night, BS. And to join me with that BS.
Hi, kids.
Is the old bastard himself.
The old bastard right here.
BZ, the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show right here on the SHR Media Network. He joins me. Oh, Mission Ready Men. Big E's in the chat. Good evening, Big E.
Damn, am I? What chat are you looking at? I'm looking at the one stream. What chat?
No. Are you on private or are you on the live chat? I don't know if you get the live chat. I think I only.
Damn it, Jim.
I know.
I didn't see the chat. Son of a bitch.
It's very.
This is wrong.
I'm sorry. I should be better. Really, I should be better, but I'm not.
Better? Why aren't you better? I know your mother taught you better. I know this for a fact. I met her.
That, you know what? That may not still be entirely true. You know, BZ,
I know BZ. I am very well acquainted with him. Thank you.
Has his own gravitational pull. As I was sitting here and we were loading up and, we were talking ahead of time and I started the music and I thought to myself,
wait a minute.
I feel like I've been here before. Now, just hear me out and maybe you can help me with this mystery. I feel like at some point, maybe even with you, on a Wednesday evening at 8 p.m., I have been in a place where I've done some sort of show. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, for years.
Yeah, I done. I mean, I'm on my own time slot. The one for Sackheads that we did for years at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights,
and an ass-kicking fun time it was.
As it was, absolutely was.
Here's the deal. Here's what happened. Okay. I may have regaled everyone with this tale before, and I don't know if I'm Bigfoot in error on your show or not.
No, go for it.
Okay, so I retired in I was retarded in 2016. I'm still retarded.
I was going to let it go. I was going to let it go.
Yeah, I didn't. I
know.
Yeah, open mouth.
And you still are.
Retard.
I mean, for lack of a better term, you still are.
Yeah, thank you. So I retired in 2016 after 41 and a half, almost 42 years of being a cop in copdom. So then I said to myself, I got to figure out something to do after all this. And I met Sackhead Shaun right here. And this other gentleman, most people don't know about, named Sackhead's Clint, who was half of your team. And you can explain all the rest of the team. But I found you and met you on Twitter at the time.
Yes.
And anybody that knows anything about me knows that I hate downtown Sacramento. It's not kind of a cuddly little hate. It's more like despiction than it is hate. And so Shaun said, "Hey, come down to this Starbucks. You kind of sound interesting. I'd like to kind of see if you would be a good fit." Because I was thinking, okay, I was in radio a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away in the 70s. I was on a whole bunch of college stations and then a couple of actual radio stations in Ohio when I was living in Ohio. Then I came back to Sacramento. I worked at KFBK, KNDE, KOBO, KEG, KERS, a bunch of places on terrestrial radio in the 70s. And then I couldn't get into the unions because of other certain personnel. So then I got into law enforcement. So a whole bunch of time has passed. I retire and I think, hey, this podcasting stuff sounds kind of fun. It's kind of like what I was doing before. And I had a great time. Oh, God, some of the best times of my life were spinning records and doing traffic for KFBK.
Doing
And
your best Wolfman Jack.
pardon?
Doing your best Wolfman Jack.
Oh, God. What was that? XERB. I actually am sufficiently old enough to have listened to Wolfman Jack on a cheap ass little Sony AM radio on
No way.
XERB from Mexico.
That's amazing.
That's how damn old I am. So Shaun and I sat down in a Starbucks and we chatted for a while. And essentially Shaun said, here's the studio. Here's where we are. Here's Sackhead Clint. Here's what we do. Why don't you come in and just sit down for a while? And, if we like you, if you like us, if you're interested, maybe you can get a show. Okay.
Well,
cool.
and here's the thing too, is I had already been on your website, bloviatingzeppelin.net. So I knew you were a writer. And at that time we had a fairly active writing section. So my whole idea at the beginning was like, well, if he doesn't want to do shows, maybe we can write and cross promote, blah, 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 blah. We were obviously of the same mindset, same history, same background, all of us,
Oh,
I
yeah.
knew we'd get along if nothing else. And if the old bastard wanted to come and just hang out, the old bastard wanted to come and hang out. You knew my reasoning for that, i.e. my father, after he retired.
Right.
I know how it goes. I'm like, oh, this is a great addition. Everybody wins. So please continue.
So I bigfooted Sackhead Shaun's show with Clint. And I eventually, I'm not even going to talk about the Las Vegas story. That's a story for another day because, all I do is open myself up and, okay, shoot me right here, ram the spear through like Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepish, no problem, no issue. So I eventually got a show that I did on Tuesday night. Well, the same time I'm on now. Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. And then I got on the Sackhead show on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific.
Yep.
11 p.m. Eastern. And like I said, and back when Ken McClinton, who used to be on SHR, got his own show and his own channel, so to speak, TECN, I would kind of Bigfoot Ken's show for about a half hour, 45 minutes or so. So I was doing a show Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And then I did the Sackhead show with you guys on Wednesday.
Yeah. You were rocking and rolling 4 nights a week.
In a long, circuitous route where I finally am getting to is, of all the shows that I did, the one that was so nice for me is I would come into the studio and SHR, some people don't believe it. SHR actually had a studio. Well, SHR's had a shit ton of studios, but the one where you are now was an actual studio with a big studio room, its own separate door and entrance and exit.
Even had a bathroom.
And its own bathroom, its own little cooking area, another area, and it had a big kind of back porch onto
Yep.
the backyard that you would access through a sliding glass door. So, when it was nice to
Back
go
in my
outside and knock down a drink and look at the stars and that kind of stuff. So it was a great damn studio. But Wednesdays were
were
some
fun.
of my favorite days.
We had a lot of
And
fun. We
because
really had a lot
for a
of fun.
number of reasons, not the least of which is I wasn't running the motherfucker.
Oh gosh, yeah,
You
that was
were.
I
You
was just
were
telling
sitting in that thing over there, and all I had to do is sit back,
you
chime in
know,
every once in a
and
while.
I'm actually in that same corner right now, just facing a different way. But what people don't realize is back when we were doing Sackheads, especially from the beginning, but even at the studio, the technology was not
No,
there like it is now. There was no plug and play. There was no one website you went to. I had to run about 6 different programs to get this setup to talk to this setup to communicate with this setup brought our audio in, this setup dispersed it here. And I get all those going and run the soundboard and do all the actual sound clips and video clips and all of that and try to have a conversation.
do you remember? Okay, people, I don't have a photo available, but at the time, you guys had a Behringer soundboard, and it was used for like concerts, multiple input. It
Yes.
had about 75,000 sliders. To me, just sitting down for the first time to try to do a show, it just looked complicated as fuck. It was like almost beyond human ken. It's like taking it, well, it wasn't like it was taking a techno Luddite such as myself, placing them in front of technology that is absolutely indecipherable. Yeah, there you go. The Xenix. Look at that. Okay, folks, for someone that's a moron like me, and then you look at that board, and then this guy over here says, "Oh, BZ, you won't have any problems. Look, everything's simple. All you do is you touch this button over here in the corner, and then this button over here, and this
Oh,
slider does this. And if you want to do this, then you do this. But if this happens, then you push this button."
the
This
mouse
goes
jumps
over
on that
here,
wheel.
the plug is in the back, the check's in the mail, and I
Well,
won't come in your mouth.
and and if you wanted the headphones to be a certain level, that was another box. Because that only fed one line coming out, and we had to go into a split situation for that. And if you wanted things to go on multiple monitors, that's a different program, so we're all seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot back in the day. I'll tell you right now,
And we weren't even doing video when we first started.
no, we added video later.
That was all audio. That
Yeah.
Listen, if you think video doesn't complicate things, for me, um,
Well, back then especially.
audio was
Back then especially. It was
but God, I loved Wednesdays.
it was
Wednesdays
fun,
were so much fun.
and I tell everyone
Okay, you touched something and now you can't be heard.
oh. Oh, you know what it
Okay.
is?
Oh, now okay,
I
now we
I
can hear you.
I can tell you exactly what it is.
Okay.
You know the, cough interrupter button that I keep on the floor to mute myself
You
for
s
a second?
you stepped on it.
I was leaning on it. I
You
actually 'cause
stepped on it.
I just rearranged my whole setup, so I was used to that being on my right foot, and it's on my left foot now, and it's just neither here nor there. But I used to tell everyone, what we did before we went on the air and after we got off the air oftentimes were funnier than anything we did on the
Oh,
air. Um,
and we had a hellacious time
we
on
did.
the air. Like I said, I first got my show January 2017, but I was actually in the studio with you two guys since about maybe September, right around in there.
Yeah.
uh, August
Yeah, it was hot.
2016,
It was still
kind of.
summer.
Yeah, it was kind of warm, and I would sit over in the corner. I had to sit in the corner and put my little nose, my big fat ugly nose, against the wall, and you guys would
Just beat
slap
the
your
hell
hand on
out of
me
you.
and that kind of thing, right? Throw goldfish at me, and
Well, you know what the best part is? We both knew, and Clint and I both knew, here you are, a senior sergeant, 41 years on the job, and now you're gonna walk in and be the FNG here. And like any good people that have been in that environment, we were gonna haze you for a little while. And we did. We hazed you beautifully.
my Mercedes took it, didn't it?
That was different. that everybody was on board with
how
that.
different. How
Oh,
different.
no,
As
no, 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 no,
you
no.
guys flew
You
in
know,
first class with the porn star
you
that
didn't
was
want to
with you,
fly.
just stuffing canapes on toothpicks into your mouths. You were like Malcolm McDowell in Clockwork Orange being fed. You'd go, open up your mouths. She'd stick something in there.
Well,
You'd
and
chew. When you were ready, you'd go, open
see,
up your mouth
I think we
again.
have a very different memory of this because first of all, we flew Southwest, so we literally had a fist fight to get a seat.
Delta
But
first class.
I
Don't listen to
remember,
him.
no. I remember we were talking about going to do Freedom Fest, and we said, "Hey, we got to get all the equipment there." This last year, I brought it in my truck. This is how we did it, and BZ said, "Well, I can do it. Throw it in my Mercedes, and we can all go together."
Being the humble fat guy.
Yep. And we all said, that's a great idea. Why don't we throw it in the Mercedes and do the 9-hour drive? Except, better idea, Clint and I will meet you out there. And we're going to fly. And that's how it worked out. So,
Delta, first class, canapes, porn star, and
Southwest, back in the day when we had to push start the Southwest planes ourselves. So,
didn't it have a crank?
yeah, it did. It did. And you had to time it so both sides went at the same time. It was a lot going on. So now we're here today. For those who haven't watched me, maybe my nighttime is a little bit different than daytime. Been doing Edge of Liberty now for a couple months during the day. Came back into broadcasting not too long ago. Here we are now. So now we're going to get into the meat of it all because I didn't bring BZ on just to talk history. We could do that anytime we wanted to, but
it's because of my bulbosity.
It is
Go
your
ahead,
bulbosity. A couple things. Pete Hegseth had his hearings this week, and I have, I think, the most articulate depiction of it, and I'm going to share that right now.
Yes,
organizations,
yes,
our veterans organizations, our veterans
Yes or no,
every
did you
damn
not-
thing that they
do you
deserve
not know
because
this
they
ever?
signed on the dotted line.
Yes or no?
to keep us safe. Just like
Oh, that went well.
Yeah, Yammering Harridans. That was the name of my third garage band, the Yammering Harridans. But that's who they are. That's who they were right there. Perfect summary.
And I can actually say this because it's at night and I can now I don't have to worry as much as I used to. What a fucking shit show that was. What an embarrassment that was.
With a few lovely caveats. And folks, if you listened or watched any of that, what the first thing that I took out of it was that I think they were attempting to just light him up.
Yes.
And I think they were expecting that they were going to get some kind of a super emo response out of him. And no, you didn't.
You know, what's funny is my neighbor who watched the confirmation hearing said, you know, it was almost like he was sitting in a different room than the rest of them. He was so calm. He was so cool. He had to be. I knew he had to be. You know, going into those events, you're going to get it. However, a lot of people don't. A lot of people can't keep their cool, especially when Tim Kaine of Virginia started bringing up adultery and drinking and all this other stuff, and not in a real scummy way. Just it was filthy. I mean, it really was filthy.
But as Pete Hegseth said, and all of those people that you just displayed, the Yammering Harridans plus Tim Kaine,
yep,
essentially were blah, 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 blah. Anonymous source, refuted, anonymous source, refuted, anonymous source.
Well, and even that, you know, what's funny is there was a sexual assault allegation. He said, there was never enough evidence to even prosecute it.
No, that was back
and
in
I was
2017.
cleared. What did Tim Kaine say? Oh, just because they didn't prosecute you, that doesn't mean you're clear of it, or something to that effect. And it's like, no, it's exactly what it means.
That's what the law means, fuck.
That's less than probable cause being had. that means you have nothing to move forward with. There's no grand jury, there's no probable cause hearings, there's nothing. And that story, as we recounted on my show, and I think we talked about it on yours when it first dropped, even that woman's husband was skeptical of her story, and that was articulated in the report.
Yes. And so it's had all that time since 2017 to fester and boil. And if there was there, then between 2017 and now, because everyone has been digging into this.
Yes.
If there was a there, it would have been all over the fruited plain by the American media maggots, in newspapers, tabloids, blah, 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 blah. And all he brought, all those other people brought, were conjecture, accusations, conjecture.
Right. And it was all just a show at the end of the day. And, you know, Earl in the chat room, Mission Ready Men, Big E just said it best. He had no problem with Bill Clinton cheating on his wife, probably because he was helping. I mean, let's be honest. And yeah, it's so amazing. And I forget the senator's name, Milheim. He's a Republican. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Oh, the guy with all the cool comments, Mark Wayne Mullen.
Mullen, that was it.
Mark Wayne Mullen.
He laid into them. So talking about senators showing up drunk to vote, all of that stuff. I was just like, oh, don't tell me you haven't seen it. Blah, 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 blah. It just went on. And I was like, good for you, man. Because that's exactly what needs to happen. Talking about how they're all underqualified to be senators, and how they're just lucky to be there. It really was brilliant, but it also was necessary. Because this is what happens. And I'll tell you, outside of a little bit of maybe some contentious questioning in the past, Republicans have been fairly even or level-headed when it's come to nominations. And you look at people that were nominated where there was questions from this last administration alone, right? It always boggles my mind how they will be absolutely pillars of morality and pillars of, hey, good day from Australia. Thank you for joining us. Pillars of honesty and decency right up until it's their person, then they don't care about it. So that was it's just atrocious.
It's like ox meat gore. Okay, shake hands and come out fighting. But it happens all the time, and it's funny how we can shove the Republicans can somehow manage to shove a blivet together and find it within themselves, mostly, to vote for the confirmations for the people on the other side. And it's the Democrats who decide, oh no, we're going to unify, but it's all going to be against anybody that has an R after their name.
Well, and you know, somebody brought this up during Hegseth's confirmation here when they were talking about qualifications and blah, 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 blah. They had to get a special allowance for Lloyd Austin to get appointed because he was coming out of Raytheon. And there was the I think it's a 7-year rule, 10-year rule.
Right.
So they even did that. And, you know, I love how he pulled apart everything that was wrong with the military right now. Essentially, it's an inverted triangle. There are way too many leaders, not enough troops, and these leaders all have special interests, and we got to find a better way. That was the long and short of his speech as to his what his approach is going to be to the military.
Well, basically what he says, in terms of the inverted triangle, is we won World War II with 7 generals.
7 4-stars.
Period. That's all we had.
Yep, 7 4-stars.
We have 40.
Well, it's more than that. I think it's like 48 or something like that.
It very well could be. But yes, upside down triangle. There you go.
And I know the size of our military is larger And naturally, you would have to add a few more, but that doesn't mean you need to have all of these 4-star generals. And that doesn't include 3 stars, 2 stars, and 1 stars. That's just the 4 stars. So, yeah, there is a lot of money that goes all the way up to the top that doesn't need to go to the top. And there are places that you can take money from to apply it in places. And the word that he used over and over again, there's something when we talk about our military, I love to hear it's not used enough: lethality.
Oh, yeah.
He said it over and over again. Lethality, lethality. Essentially bringing up what all of us know to be true, but it never gets said in Washington. The absolute purpose of our military is to kill people trying to kill us.
2 goals: kill people, break shit. If you're not willing to kill people and break shit, do not apply our beloved military.
Yep. And all this other stuff that has been just pumping, they've been pumping money into DEI programs, this, that, and the other thing. They did that big study on extremism in the military. And we were told for years how there were so many extremists in there, white supremacists, problems. This is going to be a bad speech. This is going to be a bad study. This is going to come out and shock the people. And I think they said there was 14 or something like it's some ridiculously low number. It was under 50 people that were deemed extremists. The majority of them were gang members. But that was money.
That's who they were hiring at the time.
Out
And
of
maybe that's who they're hiring now for
out of what, 3 million active troops and reserves? You're going
And
to get
Hegseth himself said that he was proscribed from taking part in some DC operations because he was deemed a white supremacist due to the Jerusalem cross that was on his chest and on his forehead, on his forearm. It says, "We the people."
Yes.
Then
That's in Jerusalem
enough,
cross.
that same cross came across on the book at Jimmy Carter's funeral.
It's on the floor of the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. That Jerusalem cross is on the floor in marble in the cathedral.
So I guess what we only found out after he passed away is that Jimmy Carter was a white supremacist. Wow, I didn't know we knew that.
It is absolutely ridiculous.
Stupid.
Yeah, and he was talking about making sure that the standards were same for everybody because the weight of equipment does not change just because you are a female carrying it or a male. And look, I've talked to plenty of people in law enforcement, fire department, military, and when you talk to the females will tell you, the ones who really did it for all the right reason and put their blood, sweat, and tears into it and did it for the right reason will tell you that they expect themselves to be able to carry the same as the males and do the same job. And they do not want a break. And I'm talking about the ones that want to do it for all the right reasons and put their heart into it. So you will get females that will join still. And there will be the ones who have zero issue carrying the same weight as the males. And that standard should not be lowered.
No.
Just because, and Liz Loris back in the day, old friend of the show, she used to talk about that all the time. How, hey, I'm carrying the same ruck. I'm doing the same push-ups. I'm doing the same sit-ups. I'm running the same. Like, it's my job to be ready for combat or to do my job in the military. And it's not the military's job to cater to me. And I agree with that. I have no issue. And I'll tell you right now, nobody does. All the military folks that I know will tell you they don't have any issues with females as long as they're doing the same thing as the males. Then welcome aboard. Come on in. The party's just fine. BZ, we somehow made it to the first break.
No.
And we did it barely covering Pete Hegseth. And I blame you.
Thank you. I'll be here all night. Massive applause.
We're going to be back in 2 minutes. I'm going to get a drink. BZ's going to get a drink. And then we come back. We'll talk about Pam Bondi. And that should take an hour. And at some point, we're going to get to the Biden speech right here on the Edge of Liberty in the SHR Media.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. The only 2-hour show on Wednesday night with a guy that looks like me and sounds like me and is. As always, it is my honor, my privilege to welcome BZ into the show.
Hi, Mom. Did you know that you have little orange tadpoles or sperm, I'm not sure which, crawling up the wall behind you?
They're actually tadpoles.
Tadpoles. Okay. All right. Good to know.
And they're only orange for a reason. And that's a reason I can't disclose at this time.
Okay, I wouldn't. I heard it has something to do with radiation.
You might be right.
Okay.
Look, I'm doing a little home experiment. I'm trying to get the hair to grow back in the top of my head, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. It's like when I used to work for Rancho Seco, a nuclear power plant. I get through at the end of a hard day and hit the bar and ask for a nice, give me a nice glass of Scotch and deuterium, please.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. Come on.
Another moving right along. Another confirmation hearing we have to talk about was that of Pam Bondi.
It was great. I didn't even watch all of it, and just the brief snippets.
Well,
snippets.
Look, I think the only person on the left who made an ass of themselves was Shaun, which, I mean, they all do, but the rest of them were all fairly predictable. Look, Pam Bondi's a real tough nut for them to crack television-wise to try to make her look bad. She was an attorney general. She was a prosecutor. Or state attorney general. She was a prosecutor. She's been there. She's done that. She has the pedigree for it. And, you know, it should have been a no questions asked confirmation, as pretty much we were told it should be.
I'm not going to do your homework for you.
No, I know where it is. I'm just reading a comment in chat that I'm going to put it up and I'm going to read it out loud. Oh, this is from Dark Sage 9117, and this is a Biden quote. potentially it could be. Americans, my fellow Americans, you know the thing, Corn Pop was a bad man and God save the Queen. I wish the next administration, lying dog faced pony soldiers who will beat Medicare, I leave office and the soul of the nation, all the men you know the thing. It was an honor of my life to be your president because my dad took me aside and said, Joey, you're the president until you're not. Farewell, fellow Americans, and God bless. Come on, man.
And I had hairy legs. He had hairy legs.
Oh, that was really well done, Dark Angel. Thank you for putting that time in. Dark Sage over on Twitch. That was funny. But getting back to Bondi, with Merrick Garland, we were pretty much conservatives for the most part, could have pushed back a lot more than they did, but he was pretty much a free pass nomination. There wasn't too much pushback. There was some question and answers as to how he saw things, whatever, but it was not at all contentious. I think if I recall, Ted Cruz was probably the most in-depth questioning, but even at that, his questions were legal questions. And I didn't think that they were gotcha questions. I didn't think they were out of line. I thought they were a good way to introduce Merrick Garland to America. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? And then if I recall, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat room, I don't think anyone voted against Merrick Garland. No. I think he got the free pass right out the gate. Not the same with Pam Bondi, who may not have as much age as Merrick Garland, but certainly has the same qualifications. It actually, potentially, you could argue more because she has the executive portion, being an attorney general in a state, but that's neither here nor there. But my point is, they should have been. This should have been a free pass thing. She's got the pedigree, as we said. But here comes Adam Schiff, the old pencil neck himself. Yeah. The only man who I'm convinced at some point down the line a story is going to come out of that I can say, haha, I told you so. But right now we'll live in the present.
You don't mean the P word, do you?
We'll live in the present for right now.
Okay. Moving along.
Here is Adam Schiff and Pam Bondi at her hearing, and here we go.
You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging
I'm sitting
law
here as a
enforcement
nominee.
sensitive information. So just tell us,
I'm
are you
sitting here as
aware?
a nominee.
Just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news
Are
is
you aware of
horrible. Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not.
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me
know.
to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president has.
We're also worried about Liz Cheney, Senator.
The president has.
You know what we should be worried about?
Ms. Bondi, please answer my questions.
California right now
you are
is
aware,
through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I was focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president? And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Immaterial.
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't do it. I won't play politics.
Of course he is. Of course he is. That's all his whole thing was. There was also the January 6th question, which I can't stand Schiff, so I'm not going to play him anymore. He just freaking drives me so.
He's obnoxious. He's the guy that kept accusing Russia. I have evidence.
He is the
Produce your evidence, motherfucker, and he never did ever. Meaning he never had evidence. None.
He was the dude who was tricked by the Russian DJs into
God, I
thinking
forgot about
they had a video of a Russian prostitute urinating on Donald Trump, and he went with it. He
remember
went
that.
with it. And the state of California elected that dickhead as a senator. It blows my friggin' mind. But that's who you're dealing with. Then he brought up the January 6th. Will you destroy evidence if you're instructed to for January 6th? Hey, I don't know how to tell you this, Adam, but you probably should know this because weren't you on the January 6th committee,
Yeah,
Adam?
your committee did and admitted it. We
Admitted it.
destroyed the evidence.
Admitted it. And this is my problem with the ultra left who will vote for anybody just because they have a D next to their name, i.e. California. Now, I'll tell you right now, if the election was held next week, I think it would be very different because I think there's going to be a shift in California, but that's neither here nor there. But this is what happens. Look, right, whether you like the man, whether you don't like the man, you know who Donald Trump is. There's no questions who Donald Trump is. He puts himself out there. He's consistent. He's honest about himself. Look, whether you like him or not, you don't have to question who Donald Trump is. Everything about Adam Schiff, you have to question because of how many times he has openly lied in public for personal political attacks. The other part of his line of questioning is, will you essentially commit political prosecutions? To which Pam Bonnie's response was like, you mean like the ones that were committed already against Donald Trump? And that's exactly true. The left just spent 4 years prosecuting Trump for every little thing that they could possibly find and made up a shitload of crimes. You saw it in Georgia, the liberties that they were allowed to take with crime. You saw in New York the liberties that they were allowed to take. You saw in the civil suits the liberties they were allowed to take in order to make it seem like what they were doing was legitimate when it was not. Adam Schiff was the voice behind all of that. Remember, the DOJ under Obama had Donald Trump being surveilled in Trump Tower prior to the election. Let that sink in. Schiff was vocally defending that in the day. Schiff has completely lied repeatedly about who and what when it came to Donald Trump. And he didn't stop. He kept going. Russia, 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 after it was disproven. After we knew the Steele dossier was contracted by the Democrats. And it came out, hey, they made this whole thing up. They hired this guy. This was a fabrication. He still pushed it afterwards. And the left has as well. He is the ilk. I have seen more trustworthy animals lying on their backs in the bottom of ponds than Adam Schiff. The fact that he has the audacity to go to Pam Bondi in that way. At her, do you make your own decisions, essentially? Does the president control your every word? Look, you didn't ask that to nobody asked that to Merrick Garland. And look at what Merrick Garland did. He did exactly what the cabal that was running the country, because we know it wasn't Biden, because the New York Times proved that with their report. 50 people questioned about Biden's ability to think and act rationally. We know he was diminished from day one. So there were other people running this country. The fact that that is not the leading headline, even still to this day, drives me insane. But unelected bureaucrats were running this country, and they directed Garland to go after Trump. And he did.
That was the largest political scandal in the history of the United States. And
it was ignored.
Completely ignored.
Seems sex.
Absolutely.
Ask me, says one Facebook user. I apologize for the Facebook users. Keep commenting. I can't see your handle on Facebook on my end through the chat program. So I apologize for not saying your name, but it just comes up as Facebook user.
Can I make a what I consider to be a salient comparison?
I'm going to give you the full screen for it.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do you remember back when Dianne Feinstein was still alive, senator from California, and she had a Chinese spy in her midst for 20 years? First, he started as her driver. Then he became her assistant. Then he came into her office, and then he became her personal assistant and driver. And he was in possession of, do you think possibly that over the course of 20 plus years, she may have left a few pieces of paper lying about in that office? Now, when they discovered it, the FBI discovered it. The FBI came to Dianne Feinstein and said, "We're giving you a warning. We think there's a spy in your midst. We're going to go after this individual, but we think it's only fair that we tell you that we're going to be investigating this guy. And this is why." China, spy, and she was, if I'm not mistaken, chair of the Security Committee for years and years and years. So you know for a damn fact that she had extremely classified documents that she was in possession of. In a briefcase on her person or in that office on the desk, etc. So the FBI came and notified her, "We have a concern, and here's why." The FBI knew that about Trump. They believed that he was compromised. If they believed he was compromised, why did they decide to go around completely circuitously around him and never notify him? Well, they gave Dianne Feinstein that courtesy. Why wasn't that same courtesy extended to Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head? And you and I know the reason why.
Well, and then we get to another member of Congress, Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
Speaking of China, who was sleeping with a Chinese spy,
Yeah.
who...
Let me see if I can do this right.
Fang Fang.
Fang Fang.
Good old Fang Fang. Who, under the Obamaites that were still in the FBI, they cleared him, which, if they cleared him and she wasn't a Chinese spy, then why did she flee the country almost immediately when this started, never spoke again, and has never ever been found since?
I heard it was hemorrhoids. That's what I heard.
Just
Bad
better
hemorrhoids.
Just better treatment over in China.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. It's ridiculous to me, the bravado that they put now to being these moral compass and the absolute we want to make sure that you have dignity when you serve with this. Really? Eric Garland had dignity. They raided Melania Trump's underwear drawer.
Hashtag who wouldn't?
All right, maybe that wasn't the best example to use with you.
But that's okay.
And then they staged the documents in a staged photo. They aligned them. They set it up. They did a little photo shoot.
Because I'm sure that's how they found them.
Exactly. And they failed to disclose that they did that in the report. The chain of custody on that case was terrible. This is all under Merrick Garland, the guy that they wanted to make a Supreme Court justice. They're asking her, essentially, Attorney General Bondi, will you lead the DOJ properly as it's supposed to be led, or will you do it the way we did it for the last 4 years, but we can't have you do it on that side of the aisle because that's really bad for us? I mean, think about just the brass balls it takes to be able to sit on that dais and question her like that when he was the biggest puppet that we've seen in years. It's astronomically insane. It's insulting. It's disgusting. And I hate the state of California for electing him. It just makes me absolutely insane.
Likelihood that they will continue to do that exact. that exact same thing. Somebody asked me, I shouldn't reveal their name, but somebody asked me and said, who is still living in California, by the way, is this going to continue? All these things that people are discovering, all these new
Oh.
things about the fire and mismanagement and all of that. And
Well, yes.
I
Let's
said,
take this to the top of the hour because I had a discussion today too. Go
okay,
for it.
okay, alrighty. So what's the deal? Is this enough to pull people around? And I said, okay, well, wait, hold up on that car wash for a very important reason. What occurred in Southern California is no different that has been occurring in Northern California for at least a decade.
Yes.
Probably about 20 years or so. Now, I lived in the Sierra Nevada mountains. I lived up at the 4,000-foot elevation for 28 years. And I commuted, it was about 90 to 95 miles one way every day. I got a take-home car because of the things that I happened to do at the time, detectives, some other units and whatnot. So I was up in what I considered to be God's country. But in all those years, the same thing that people are complaining about, I saw there. There was no forest management, none.
At
Now,
all.
this stems back to somebody from CDF, which is the precursor to CAL FIRE, who at one time would cut fire roads, would cut fire breaks, did controlled burns, and actually took care of the forest until CDF discovered that firefighters would make more money fighting fires than preventing fires. And maybe at this point you're going, that can't be true. That person who worked for CDF is my current wife and knows exactly those things. So the person I was talking to said, all right, let's examine this and let's look at the larger overarching picture, if you would. Northern California has been experiencing this thing is the same with all the states on the border and New York, for example. And I will make the simile here shortly, which is the only way I can make it because I'm 5'9". Okay. But the difference is that Northern California has been experiencing fires for decades and fires such that they kill people like, the murdering PG&E. But it's only when people, wealthy individuals with great coastal and ocean views are personally affected by this kind of crap in LA County does somebody somewhere take up just a bit of notice. Only when they are personally affected, when, as I said before at the beginning of the show, when their ox is gored, only then will things change / all the illegal invaders on the southern border, no one gave a shit about those southern states and the border states until illegal invaders got shipped up to New York and various other places. And then
all of a sudden
Chicago,
it was a
and all
problem.
of a sudden is, this is a problem. Or you're a sanctuary city. Well, it's still you're a sanctuary state. Well, it's still shut the fuck up and take your illegal invaders. The same thing here. And people are saying, it wasn't just all wealthy people. Okay, maybe there's a handful of people that I went and looked at a plat map on Zillow of most of those areas, and homes that in Sacramento or maybe even in your neighborhood would customarily be $150,000, maybe at the most $250,000, $3.2 million, $9.7 million, $7.3 million.
And first of all, you're not going to find anything for 150 in Sacramento. You're looking at a minimum of 300. But moving on past that, you also look at a lot of those homes were generational homes. I've seen a lot of people who those homes were passed down and passed down and passed down. The big question is now when it comes into the rebuild, and we're talking about the Palisades fire now at 21% contained, Eaton fire 45% contained. Are those people, the generational families who are not millionaires, they're not Hollywood people, they're not wealthy, they're not music artists, will they be able to rebuild? Will it be inexpensive enough for it to rebuild? Look, Newsom already said, we're going to cut some of the state red tape when it comes to rebuilding. It'll be the question that was posed to me today is, do you think LA is going to do that because the environmentalists have such a hold in the LA government? Will the LA government stop some of their local building codes and dumb it down to allow people to rebuild reasonably?
No, here's the
Hold
deal.
on.
We
Can
don't
you
know
see
what it
that?
is.
Can you see that? Says I'd have to sell feet pics on OnlyFans to live there. I do miss late night, man. I miss late night when we could play these games. But so the question was, will LA do that? And I said, I don't know if LA will do that. I think they almost have to, because if they don't, and somebody sues and says, wait a minute, you've made this completely unreasonable for X, Y, and Z for a normal person to be able to rebuild, and they win the lawsuit, if they cite environmental restrictions or anything close to that, then what'll happen is it'll start opening up all of those other environmental restrictions to question.
Power, control, and money. I'm not disagreeing with you per se, but I am disagreeing in terms of what's the future going to be like. There will be a sunset clause. Now, I don't know the details about any of what type and level of restrictions may have been lifted or are being suggested for lifting by Gavin Newsom. I don't have that information in front of me. But it is about power, control, and money, and they will not be able to. It will, just as admitting defeat kills them, being able to reorganize the Democrat Party so that it has some kind of sanity left to it. They're not going to be able to do that. And in California, in terms of those things, restrictions, all the various agencies that get involved with permits and regulations and zoning, etc., they may relax those things for, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a figure out there, say 6 months, let's say 9 months, let's say even a year, let's say whatever restrictions there are that he's got percolating about in his brain housing group, Gavin Newsom does enter those into the mix. Will anybody be able to acquire and actually begin turning a spadeful of earth in 9 months or 1 year? I suggest no. Now, you're competing with everybody on everything in Southern California, not just with California, always spell it with a K, but you're also competing with all the people that are back east that are trying to rebuild from Hurricane Helene. So that means that CDX plywood that you think that you're going to be getting, maybe at one point you got it for $50 a sheet. It ain't going to be $50 a sheet anymore.
If you're getting it for 50, you were getting a deal.
If you can get it anymore. So here's what you're going to have to have. You're going to have blueprints. You're going to have an architect. You're going to have this approved on every level. If you're in the city, you're going to have it approved on the city level. If you're in the county, you're going to have it approved on the county level. If you're in the state, you're going to have it approved on the state level. Then you're going to have to run it through EPA. Then there are also other people that have gone through. I had a friend that went through the Santa Rosa fire. Before they would let him rebuild, he had to mitigate all the toxins that were on his property because of the things that fell and burned. And there was no company that came in to do that to help him. No, he had to do it himself. He had to find the people to be able to mitigate the toxins and the chemicals and everything that burned into a big slag
all the
on his property. And everybody down in Southern California is going to have to find that as well. Materials, construction companies, architects, laborers, all the things that are short right now. So sunset clause, if you think you're really going to be able to get in and just start building like a motherfucker within the span of a year down there, I suggest you might want to rethink some of those things.
Oh, yeah, and more so. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I have a simple question I want you to think about, and we'll answer that on the other side.
Okay.
Do you see a recall of Karen Bass or a resignation of Karen Bass? I do not want your answer right now.
Okay.
And do you, same question for Gavin Newsom?
Okay.
Back right here on the SHR Media.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
And welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Hour number 2. I didn't even plan on an hour number 2, but the fact that I have BZ with me says hour number 2.
Blah, 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 blah,
Was
blah,
gonna
blah.
happen.
When is BZ going to shut up? Blah, 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 blah.
I just
blah,
learned. I've learned planning a 1-hour show. As soon as I add a guest, it's a 2-hour show. It's a 2-hour show, hands down, no questions asked.
That's like me trying to get all the stuff that I want to talk about in my show.
It'll never happen.
In my show.
It'll never happen.
It never once has happened. Well, BZ's constant is such that always have more material than you think you could possibly use. I learned that I may not have told you this story. One of the earliest shows that I ever had, I had a guy on by the name of Alan Thomas, whom I met at a paranormal convention,
I love Alan.
UFO Con in Sacramento.
Alan's awesome.
At Madison Avenue, and he and Jeff Gonzalez they brought the entire dog and pony show over there, and he was going through a live stream or something like that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This is 2010, 2009, maybe even 2008, right around in there. So I met Alan Thomas. And when I finally got my show, one of the things I decided was, after having contacted him, I thought, one of my first guests needs to be Alan Thomas. And I had a few things prepped for that. And then Alan Thomas was supposed to call in at 8 p.m. Pacific, and that crickets, free to eat, no Alan Thomas. So I was a little upset. And then I ended up looking like a real dumb shit because I did not have enough stuff ready and prepared. And so I had to go to the internet and try to find a whole bunch of stuff. And at the end of the show, I was pissed. I was pissed at Alan Thomas. One of my first really good official guests. And he
was
just,
your phone on silent?
He ghosts me. He just damn ghosts me. And I was going to ask him a whole bunch of questions, and we were going to have a grand old time. And so about 2 days later, it took me that long to calm down. I sent him a text, or I called him, one of the two. And when I texted him, he said, "Man, I'm really sorry. I have to apologize. I'm really sorry for that." And I thought, why didn't you? Well, I didn't think. I said, why didn't you at least send me a text, a courtesy of a text? And his response was, "Well, I'm sorry. I had a heart attack."
I don't have the trombone music prepped for it.
Wah, wah, wah,
Oh,
wah,
man. What
wah.
an
So
ass you are.
who felt like a 1/4-inch fuck stick? Yeah,
Well, and back in the
me.
day, we had to use what was that program called? Tapwire, something like that, in order to bring the phone into the show and the guest into the show. And so that is already stressful, and then to have it not light up. I had one night I was doing Sackheads by myself years and years ago before we get into the questions I asked you. Um, and I think it was Dan Butcher. And it was one of the first times I was doing Sackheads by myself. It was before your time. I was in the studio ready to go. This studio, we had just gotten into the studio, and Clint pulled a Clint and called me like 6 minutes before we're supposed to go on the air and go, "Oh, yeah, I can't make it. I got stuck at
Can't make
work,
it.
and so I'm not gonna be able to be there. Sorry, bro." Click. And now, when you have a regular partner, you plan your show based on a two-person interaction. Each person has the segment that they lead, each person has this, each person has that. We had talked all week about our subjects, what we were gonna cite, what we were gonna do. I had stuff up on the board back then. We used to do the 10 minutes of history. So he had the history section prep, so that's 10 minutes that I didn't even, like, have anything for. And I think it was Danny Butcher who was my go-to at the time for a fill-in. I reached out to Dan real quick. "Hey, can you jump in?" "Yep, I got you." "Great, no problem." And I started the show, checking, my waiting for my phone to ring because I had to use my cell phone back then. Waiting for my phone to ring, doing the show, waiting for my phone to ring. Did not have chat roll up, which back in the day we used chat roll as our chat interface.
Yep.
And we were just going, or I was going, and I'm struggling. Like, I could feel myself sweating just trying to make it happen. And I'm pulling this and pulling that and citing this, and I'm trying to run the whole board. Most people don't realize part of the bonus at that time of having that second person is while Clint was talking, I could prep things. It gave me a moment to do my work,
Right.
you know, and I didn't have that. So now I'm doing this. We're not on camera, thank goodness, but we're still on audio, and I'm running around doing the whole. At the end of the show, I pick up my phone because I finally had a moment. I didn't even have a moment at the break because at the breaks back in the day, you remember this, when I used to when we used to go to a break, because I had that time with that second and third when you came along, personality to cover some time, I could be prepped before we went into break for the next segment. What did I used to do every break? Do you remember?
Can I say?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hit the patio and smoke a cigarette.
Yep. I'd bust out the door, go through the slider, and I'd smoke a cigarette. And that was like my 2 minutes of quiet. You guys
Yeah.
would sit in here, but I needed my brain to reset.
Yeah.
I didn't even get that show. So we're going on 2 hours. I'm breaking my stride break, and I look at my phone, and I had like 9 missed calls from Dan Butcher and a text message saying, "Hey, man, what's going on? Why aren't you answering?" So I was the asshole that night.
Well, why weren't you? Well,
Yeah.
Alan, why weren't you here? You made
Exactly.
me look terrible, Alan Thomas. What's wrong with you?
All my own fault.
Come
All
on,
my own
asshole.
fault. I want 2 quick answers to the question. Karen Bass first, then Newsom. I'll give mine, and then we'll get into Biden.
Okay. You first? Me first.
You first.
Okay. Karen Bass, I don't think she's long for this planet. If for no other reason than she said initially when she took the job, "I will not be venturing abroad, overseas. I am bringing unique budgetary constraints to the the ship of Los Angeles." And then she took 5 trips overseas, one because she was invited to Ghana, parenthesis, what the hell? She took 3 trips to France on the LA taxpayer dime. And then she cocked this up to no end. The 3 carpet munchers made her look very bad. It's like, this is a level where she may actually, I think, suffer some consequences. Now, if that takes the form of a recall, I don't know. If it takes the form of whenever she's reelected, she gets her ass kicked to the curb, it could be that. Gavin Newsom, I don't think much is going to happen to him. He's sufficiently glib, sufficiently handsome, that he woos a lot of people. He's sufficiently verbose that he can speak a massive amount of marbles in the mouth, pablum bullshit that people will believe. Will he suffer terribly? I'm not so sure. The first one to suffer, I think, will be Karen Bass.
Well, and I'm going to go a different way.
Okay.
I think Los Angeles just got rid of Gascon, right?
Yeah.
They're already angry. They
Yep.
were already angry about the crime in the city. Now, the other side of public safety, fire, mismanaged. It does not matter. The buck stops with Bass. I think she goes to a recall. I think people are pissed.
Yeah, something will happen.
I think that this incident may start changing a lot more tide in California. You look at social media and there are even Democrats that are pissed. So the change may actually happen. When it comes to Newsom, the amount of signatures that are showing up on recalls are pretty steep right now. I think a lot of Democrats were pissed at him for this last election for running off and campaigning for Biden when there was stuff going on here that he needed to be attending to. And I think the state in general is sick and tired of him. And you now have him doing this big media push and trying to change the attention to fighting with Trump and not necessarily paying attention to the fires. He's in front of the fires, but every chance he gets, he got the chance. I said this on my show. The first real press conference when Biden was there last week, the first thing he did is like, well, it's nice to not have a president that I have to kiss a ring to get some damn help, blah, 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 blah. He started this. He's trying to make it about that fight. And as somebody who pointed out to me earlier, who's worked for the state in enough to know the inside politics there that is very trustworthy, has already brought up the point of, well, he may get recalled, or before it even happens, he may appoint himself to another position or get appointed to another position that he has to resign, because if he gets recalled, that crushes any future political aspirations.
Okay, so what are you thinking in terms of alternate appointments, something like that?
Oh, I don't know. That's what I didn't get a chance to get too far into that, but you never know who the DNC needs. You never know.
Oh, you're thinking about that aspect. You're thinking,
yes.
Well, number one, he's trying to deflect. Now, whether that deflection will end up pushing him back into the warm, buttressy bosom of the DNC or not, not entirely impossible. Will he go away? Well, you and I both know he's never going to go away. He's part of the Newsom family. He's
But
part of the five great big families, the ruling families.
But I will tell you right now, if he gets recalled, I don't think he can ever run again successfully, because even if he wins the recall election, this albatross will be very, very hard to get rid of on a national level, which is where his next step is, and we all know that. So that's just my thought, but we'll see what happens.
He will never hurt for money. We all know that.
No. He'll always be hanging around.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's going to be electable and if he gets recalled.
Exactly. Now, whether he'll be a hanger-arounder in the club. Now, whether he gets his patch or not, and the HAs decide to throw blood on him or not, I don't know. But if he does get recalled, I am with you. I think his direct political days are over. I think Karen Bass is a lot more vulnerable than she is. But if he does, in fact, suffer a recall, then he can larger political aspirations. They're
gone. And
right away.
What happened in this state when Gray Davis got recalled? Who did they elect?
Oh, I know.
Arnold.
Do you know?
Arnold. But
I know who.
But it wasn't necessarily the name. The fact that they elected a Republican after Gray Davis because the state was so bad. makes you wonder what would happen if a recall is successful. And you have some people out there who are, granted, California Republicans, but Republicans nonetheless. People who aren't as extreme as to what's in there now. So
somebody in chat said, "Oh, Governor Kamala."
Yeah,
you know, I'm
I don't
really not so sure about that.
I don't think her ego would let her step down to governor. In her mind, that's a step down, and I don't think she'll do it.
I don't think she'd play.
Yeah,
even in California at this point.
Right. So that's yet to be seen. Now let's get on the big news of the night. Biden gave his farewell to the nation speech, which we will play in its entirety. It's about 18 minutes long, and we will comment. We will stop and comment as we go.
We will not frugally and kindly.
That will not happen.
With much reflection and love and consideration.
So this is where I have to give a warning to the good people watching this show. You're about to see Joe Biden for 18 minutes. Somebody just said, talking about Kamala, that she's polling really well, and part of me thinks that is a joke that's being had there.
Yeah.
That I'm not about to get into. I'm not about to get into it. I'm not about to get into it.
I see what you did there. Get into it.
Yep, here we go. We're going to Biden.
Yeah. Fun show, by the way.
Thank you very much. Come on, Joe.
Yo.
I know. I even started this a few minutes in because I knew there was a couple minute lead into it. Come on, Joe. It's just typical Biden, isn't it, to be late for my show?
My fellow Americans.
There he is.
There we go.
I'm speaking to you tonight from the Oval Office. Before I begin, let me speak to important news from earlier today. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas. The elements of which I live.
You mean by Israel and Hamas?
BZ.
Yeah.
Did the Biden administration negotiate? Were they so tough on Hamas that they brought Hamas to the negotiation table?
It was nonstop.
Or just throwing this out there, is it the fact that Reagan said, that Trump said, essentially, hey, day one, if Hamas doesn't turn over the hostages and end this bullshit, they're going to be blown off the face of the planet. And they took that seriously. Which one do you think?
The quote was hell to pay.
Hell to pay.
If the hostages are not returned by January 20th, there will be hell to pay. You know what? I believed him.
Here it is, January 15th, and we're talking ceasefire.
Yeah.
Weird. We shall continue.
Laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team.
Doesn't he look like the dog from the old RCA commercial looking at the old, what's it, a dictaphone? No, it's not a dictaphone, the old gramophone.
Right.
You know, remember like the dog looked at it like it was confused?
Right. I call that the CPL, the canine puzzlement look. Where
he has that look on his face right now.
A little bit. Yeah, he's got the CPL going on.
And will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. This will be my final view from the American people from the Oval Office, from this desk as president. And I've been thinking a lot about who we are and maybe more importantly, who we should be. Long ago in New York Harbor, an iron worker installed beam after beam, day after day. He was joined by steel workers, stonemasons, engineers. They built not just a single structure, but a beacon of freedom. The very idea of America was so big, we felt the entire world needed to see. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from...
And Joe was actually there taking pictures of it as it was being erected.
He was.
From France after our Civil War. Like the very idea of America, it was built not by one person, but by many people from every background and from around the world. Like America, the Statue of Liberty is not standing still. Her foot literally steps forward atop a broken chain of human bondage. She's on the march, and she literally moves. She is built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below. An engineering marvel.
It's funny, BZ, with all this global warming, shouldn't she be like ankle deep in water right now?
Oh, of course. That's why millionaires are spending millions of dollars to have a beachfront property. And then the insurers insure it. I can't figure that crap out.
The rambling continues.
Yeah.
The Statue of Liberty is also an enduring symbol of the soul of our nation. A soul shaped by forces that bring us together and by forces that pull us apart. And yet, through good times and tough times, we've withstood it all. A nation of pioneers and explorers, of dreamers and doers, of ancestors native to this land, of ancestors who came by force.
Wait a sec.
Oh, come on.
Why?
They were by force.
But why do you even have to say it? I mean, it's one of those things. First, look.
Signal.
Once again, every single country has conquered or was conquered at one time or another. That is how nations were formed. 400 years ago was a much more bloody time. And what people fail to remember is there were a lot of Native Americans that were working with the then Pilgrims and British, if you will, to get rid of other Native American tribes. And Native American tribes, before we even showed up, were attacking and killing other Native American tribes. Like it or not, that is what happened. The Blackfoot Indians that are up in South Dakota did not become huge just by population. Is because they murdered off other tribes.
One sentence.
Mm-hmm.
For every buyer, there is required a seller.
Yes, this is true. Is this in 1850? I think that was Melanie that asked that. It could have been with Joe.
The nation of immigrants came to build a better life. A nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever in the history of the world.
Bird?
That all of us are created equal. That all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness. That democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible.
It must be imposed and moved. Democracy, you have to move democracy.
Of course.
That's just how it is. You must move democracy, BZ.
You know what you have
Our
to
rights.
do?
What's that?
You got to move it.
Oh, you made me screw up.
Came to build a better life. A nation holding the torch of the most powerful idea ever.
We get to
in the
listen
history
to
of
it
the
again.
world.
We're so lucky.
That all of us are created equal.
All of us.
That all of us deserve to be treated with dignity, justice, and fairness.
Except for everybody that was paid out through the Congressional Slush Fund, because they don't actually get their day in court. They just get paid off.
Right.
That democracy must defend and be defined and be imposed, moved in every way possible. Our rights, our freedoms, our dreams. But we know the idea of America, our institution, our people, our values that uphold it are constantly being tested.
He mentioned our rights, freedoms, and dreams, but didn't really set it up. He just mentioned the words.
Ongoing debates about power and the exercise of power. But whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example. Whether we show the courage to stand up to...
Hold on.
Until we drive the garbage truck or the garbage truck drives us.
Or the power of our example. Whether we show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power or we yield to it. After 50 years at the center of all of this, I know that believing in the idea of America means respecting the institutions that govern a free society.
And making deals with China for your son.
The presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press.
A what? A free and independent press. Didn't we just have Mark Zuckerberg admitting that his administration was screaming at them to take down posts that they didn't like? Not posts that were wrong, posts that didn't like.
Sure. Yeah. And he suggested it was at least 75,000 PSI that was applied.
Yes.
Institutions that are rooted, they just might not reflect the timeless words, but they echo the words of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Rooted in the timeless words of the Constitution, we the people. Our system of separation of powers, checks and balances. It may not be perfect, but it's maintained our democracy for nearly 250 years, longer than any other nation in history.
Look.
Okay, is he giving us the world's shittiest history lesson, or is he going to say something that actually applies to what occurred during his presidency?
I'm just going to throw this out there really quick. How long has England been a nation?
Long time, GI.
Okay. I'm just throwing out like one. I mean, look, 250 years for a nation is a long time. Yes. But it's been done before.
Ever tried such a bold experiment?
True.
In the past 4 years, our democracy has held strong.
Has not.
And every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans.
No, you haven't.
Through one of the
No. Eating tapioca in the corner while other people are making decisions for the nation is not keeping a promise.
toughest periods in our nation's history.
The toughest period in our nation's history?
Please, as Richard Pryor would say.
He already mentioned the Civil War.
Yeah, blank, please.
Yes.
Partner and Vice President Kamala Harris.
It's
been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic. The heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe. The determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited millions
or to Wuhan 19.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers.
We have millions of new businesses in this country.
No, what we did is we regained the jobs that we lost during Wuhan 19.
Millions, though?
Bonus!
We're not millions of new businesses?
Rights and our freedoms.
Hold on.
Baby.
Instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited, millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. And together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities. One of the greatest modernizations of infrastructure in our entire history, from new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet.
Whoa. Affordable high-speed internet, still nothing has been done with that. They have not brought an ounce of internet to anywhere.
Oh, you mean like the reservoir whose funding was encumbered in 2014 in California, always spell it with a K, and there's not one new reservoir built.
That's not the one I was thinking of. What I was thinking of was the 7 charging stations for electric vehicles that were built with the $80 billion or however much was thrown into that. The internet, and this was brought up during the election, the expansion of high-speed internet to rural communities, which was supposed to be spearheaded by Harris. The funding was there. There hasn't been one single hookup yet.
Every American.
You don't understand.
We invented
Harris was busy being the border czar.
My bad.
Okay.
Semiconductor. smaller than the tip of my little finger. And now it's bringing those chip factories and those jobs back to America where they belong.
Hello.
Creating thousands of jobs. Finally, giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for millions of seniors. Finally, doing something to protect our children and our families by passing the most significant gun safety law in 30 years and bringing violent crime to a 50-year low.
What gun safety law did they pass?
I heard that, and I was trying to figure out, I don't know that. And by the way, hey, asshole, my Medicare shit did not go down. It went up. Just thought I'd say.
I have to look it up. It was back in 2022. It was touted as the first major, this is by NPR, Gun Safety Act. It was after the Buffalo incident.
On a federal level?
On a federal level. Oh, it's the one with the red flag laws. That's why I ignored it.
Oh.
Because it had red flags all over it.
Meeting our sacred obligation to over 1 million veterans so far who were exposed to toxic materials, and to their families, providing medical care and education benefits and more for their families. You know, it will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together.
Let me translate that because I speak Democrat. Okay. That is, folks, the words, it will take time to feel the impact is, folks, you don't realize how bad we fucked you, and you won't for some time. And we usually time these financial spending plans that we sign into office to take place during the next administration, so they get burdened with the full weight of the cost.
Here's his legacy in December: 2.9% increase in inflation.
Yes, on the rise.
Yeah, thanks.
But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come.
Yeah, that's great. What if the plant's poisonous?
At home, we've created nearly 17 million new jobs, more than any other single administration.
No. I'm tired of that goddamn lie.
Can you not go, everybody listening to the show tonight, can you not go up and down one of your major streets and not see a hiring right now sign in almost any and every business that you can think of?
Do you know how many jobs, this is actually hysterical. Do you know how many jobs, BZ, were lost during COVID?
I'd say close to probably 1 million, which is probably, I don't know, the number of businesses that were shuttered.
BZ, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities,
okay,
total non-farm employment fell from 1.4 million jobs in March 2020 to a staggering 20.5 million jobs in April.
Okay, well, there you go.
The 17 million that he's touting about are jobs that came back post-pandemic.
That's funny. I thought I said that.
It's a single term. More people have health care than ever before. And overseas, we've strengthened
NATO. Did you just say more people have been drunk than ever before?
Nobody should.
Ukraine is still free. And we pulled ahead of our competition with China. And so much more.
What?
How, though? There's no metric given for how we pulled ahead of China. He just said we pulled ahead of China. That's like me saying I'm the best kisser. There's no, who's going to check me on it?
Well, I wouldn't say you're bad. Folks, if you get my drift.
Yep.
Yep.
We all get it, sadly.
I'm so proud of how much we've accomplished together for the American people. And I wish the incoming administration success, because I want America to succeed. That's why I've held my duty to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power, to ensure we lead by the power of our example.
Okay. So far saying the right things. That's why I'm helping this next administration, peaceful transfer of power. Good.
I have no doubt that America's in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern.
Here it comes.
This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people.
Yeah, like Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The guy from Amazon.
Bezos.
Yep. Soros. Zuckerberg. All these people that tons of money into the Democrats and made tons of money off of COVID.
Yeah, but you can't.
But yeah, he's right. We have to worry about there's a concentration of rich people. He's bringing up a good point.
The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked.
What abuse of power?
Today.
So is he admitting that rich people influence the country to the point that it can't be unchecked? Is that what he's saying?
Well, the abuse of power. Yeah, sure, there was abuse of power on his end for 4 years. Abuse of his power.
Yes. Please continue.
An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms.
So we all know what he's actually saying here, right? He's talking about Elon Musk.
Exactly.
He's mad because a rich guy dared to back a conservative or the Republicans. He's mad that a rich guy has done more for free speech in this country than they have been able to destroy.
See,
he has undone so much of what they worked so hard to get, which was silencing opposition on social media, control of mass media. They worked for years to consolidate that power. And here comes this dumbass South African rich guy who's going to show up and help undo all that by buying one of the biggest social media networks or social media platforms that there has ever been.
But of course, George Soros screwing over the FCC and getting to purchase 200 radio stations. Pay no attention to that.
And that does include the ones that he purchased back in 2022 that nobody ever talks about.
Shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America. And we've seen it before.
Give me an example.
More than a century ago.
Give me an example of what you've seen by Elon Musk, other than the fact that Kamala got her ass kicked because people were actually able to share information and mainstream media and Hollywood were not effective at swaying people by lying to them. Give me an example, Joe. Don't just say we've seen it before. Give me a goddamn example. You can't.
Zuckerberg, $200 million in the 2020 election for the Democrats. Also, Dr. Robert Epstein saying in 2016 that Google could easily throw an election.
Yes. And that's been said time and again. But it's amazing that they only worry about that when it...
That's okay.
I know.
That's fine.
But the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy. Just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to.
He brought up robber barons. BZ, I know you were alive when the robber barons were active in this country.
I worked as a maid for Cornelius Vanderbilt in New York. And so I used to hand him all his cigars. They were not utilized in a Bill Clinton-like fashion. I should emphasize.
I mean, you told me I was a good kisser, so I can't really trust you on that one.
Well,
for people that don't know, the robber barons were the wealthy American industrial and financiers in the 19th century who allegedly used unethical business practices to gain wealth and power.
Well, like the big three of the Transcontinental Railroad.
Right. Carnegie, Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, and there was a couple other ones in there too, but those were the bigger names.
Stanford.
Yep. Speckles. And other ones, but
that's Sprinkles. Those are the guys that put the little things on the donuts.
Yes, they were the biggest problem in my opinion.
Oh yeah, the Sprinkles.
Workers want rights to earn their fair share. They were dealt into the deal. and help put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen.
Lies.
We've got to do that again.
Oh, yeah.
In the last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules, pay their fair share of tax.
When we have the tax discussion in this country, it blows my mind how and Trump brought this up with Hillary the first time running. He essentially said, look, change the tax code.
Yeah, all I've
Change the
been
tax
doing is
code.
obeying
What
and
the
paying the
tax code allows.
taxes that I am by law mandated to pay when I am mandated to pay them. If you don't like the taxes that you say that I don't pay, then change the tax laws.
Yes. And if you as a person don't like the tax code, stop electing people that allow for it. It comes back to the people that get elected, not the president. And yeah, I mean, the president signs it, but the Congress is the one that puts that bill on his desk. So pay attention to who you fucking elect.
Taxes. So much is at stake. Right now, the existential threat of climate change has never been clear.
Oh my God. BZ, the
you
tax thing
just
drives me nuts because
Stop.
you want to talk about taxes.
It's a grift. It's a scam. It's a grift to separate Gaups from their cash. And I went through this personally. I'll tell you a story. When I was working at EVOC, we were looking to find another place to conduct our vehicle training for emergency responders, cop cars, and fire apparatus. We were at a particular place on Mather Air Force Base. We were looking at McClellan Air Force Base, both vacated. And by the way, they were riffed. They had their asses riffed by Bill Clinton back in 1993, I should mention, which is how those bases got closed. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. So we went to McClellan. We were looking for an EVOC facility, Emergency Vehicle Operations Course facility, to train emergency responders at McClellan Air Force Base. The federal people at the time said, well, you can't build here because we have vernal pools and fairy shrimp. Number one, what the fuck is a vernal pool? And number two, what are fairy shrimp? Hi, don't eat me. So, but the federal government said this. Now, you can mitigate that with set-asides. You ever hear of a set-aside, people? A set-aside is when you give the federal government property. The county of Sacramento had property to give the federal government, and the federal government was ready to go, ding, fuck the fairy shrimp, fuck the vernal pools. If you give us an equivalent amount of property that the county of Sacramento owns, we can see fit to just let you pave the shit out of all of this stuff. That was so dear that the environment, you despoilers of the environment, pay us here. That's how the federal government works.
And that's how it's always worked. By the way, the idea that rich people don't pay taxes. In 2021, Elon Musk paid $15 billion between state and federal taxes. So it does happen. But what they never talk about is what they do for some of these tax write-offs, the donations that they make, the small businesses that they start, all of that other stuff. People complain that Tesla didn't pay taxes for a couple of years. That's because they were part of the Green Coalition that got away with a bunch of stuff that other companies didn't get away with. Why? Because under Obama, they signed all of those environmental things to give money to electric car companies.
I got to sneeze. Hold on a second. Cylinder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's look across the country. From California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant
North Carolina
climate and
is?
clean energy law ever in the history of the world. And the rest of the world is trying to model it now.
No, they're not.
It's working.
No, it isn't.
Creating jobs and industries of the future.
No.
Now we've proven we don't have to.
I love how he says other countries are modeling that. Other countries, especially in Europe, are bringing back nuclear energy and coal online as we speak to make up for the power difference that they're struggling with.
Angela Merkel created a secession of removing the power plants that all the leftists wanted them to remove because multiculti was so wonderful at the time, except it didn't pay the bills and it didn't keep the lights on.
Exactly.
To choose between protecting the environment and growing the economy. We're doing both.
No, you're not. 2.9% inflation is not growing the economy, bub.
Powerful forces want to wield their unchecked influence to eliminate the steps we've taken to tackle the climate crisis, to serve their own interest.
No, what a lot of people, especially Musk and others, have said, and even Trump, you cannot jump into all of these green power sources and this green way of life at the detriment to society. Once they become naturally available and naturally successful, the entire world will embrace it because it will then be intelligent and people won't be suffering $5 a gallon for gas to try to get to work.
You don't remove something before you implement something.
Right.
Dumbass.
For power and profit. We must not be bullied into sacrificing the future of our children and our grandchildren. We must keep pushing forward and push faster.
What that says is, please don't undo everything I did because we fucked people just the way we wanted them fucked so they would do our bidding and follow our path, even though the science that we're using isn't exactly proven.
There's no time to waste. It's also clear that American leadership in technology is an unparalleled source of innovation that can transform lives. We see the same dangers of the concentration of technology, power, and wealth. You know, his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise.
Okay, let's talk about the military-industrial complex for about 10 minutes. You had one president who was trying to end wars and didn't start any wars, i.e. we're not spending bombs at $20 million apiece. And then you have this president who, under his watch, you had Russia, Ukraine, then you had Israel pop off, you have the Yemenis doing what they're doing,
Syria.
Syria, the entire thing's a shit show, and our munitions and equipment are all over the place over there. We keep giving billions of dollars of equipment, only they forget to tell you that by giving them equipment and spending that money, that means we have to buy more from the military-industrial complex. So everything he is saying about the military-industrial complex right now is bullshit.
China is at 400 ships. We're at 200 ships.
Right.
Part of the military-industrial complex has said something similar to, because I read the story last week, it's going to take us roughly, if we don't implement a real strong production, it's going to take us roughly 18 years to gather the same amount of munitions and equipment that we've given away and or sold to other countries and mostly to Ukraine. That sure makes us safe, doesn't it?
And guess what? All that money, all the equipment and munitions that we need to refill our coffers are going to be paid for with taxpayer dollars, and that money is going to go to the military-industrial complex. It just is.
Of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation.
And inflation. Let's start with that.
Enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling.
No, it's not.
No.
Folks,
well, whether it's crumbling or not, it brought that shit on itself.
Yes. Well,
those are self-inflicted wounds.
The free press started crumbling years ago when they were coordinating with the Democrats to push a narrative. Okay. The free press started by individuals like you, BZ, and I, who started reporting on what we were seeing. Then what happened is news agencies and newspapers started to tell you that things were so complicated your simple mind wouldn't understand. So we're going to tell you what you should be thinking about it so you don't have to be bothered. Go back into the mind, please.
We are the gatekeepers. Only we get to know certain things. Remember CNN? I think it might have been Cuomo who said, we are the only ones who are allowed to see these secret papers right here. You're not allowed to see them, but because we're special, we're the gatekeepers, we're allowed to see this. You aren't. Don't bother your fuzzy little brain about any of that, little boy and little girl. Just move on. Let the adults take care of the real news.
Media's job used to keep government in check. They used to be able to exploit government and keep them in check. Now they keep them in power. Plain and simple.
Social media is giving up on fact checking.
Yeah.
The truth is smothered by lies.
No.
Yeah.
So
your lies.
As we saw with Facebook and we saw with Twitter before it became X, the fact checkers were not necessarily independent fact checkers that were just independently checking and had no bias. No, the fact checkers were smearing and destroying and throttling people's accounts based off of what the government wanted to be said, plain and simple. I will tell you, as somebody who is in the podcast industry going on 12 years now, 13 years now, something like that, we started off throttled. We fought throttled. Correction, it wasn't as throttled. It was really before throttling became a thing. When we were in our second or third year with Sackheads, we were getting 20 or 30,000 downloads a show. And then what happened? They started to control and throttle conservative voices. We know this. We know they were doing it. Anything conservative. Remember when the IRS was targeting just conservative businesses and nonprofit organizations?
Lois Lerner.
That's correct. And then you had the alphabet company, Google, and Facebook, when they were just Facebook back in the day, throttling conservative voices. YouTube as well, throttling conservative voices. And then all of a sudden, when we started bringing up, hey, I think we're being throttled, our numbers plummeted. And it wasn't a change in our setup on the show. It wasn't a change in how we broadcasted. It wasn't a change in people. It wasn't a change in times or schedules. Nothing had changed except all of a sudden we weren't finding the same crowds that we were finding 3 weeks earlier. And I had people who I knew personally ask us why we weren't on the air for a few weeks in a row. And I said, no, we're on the air. Go look.
And also, why can't we find you?
Yes.
Where have you been?
Yes.
I can't find you.
100%. So social media did this to themselves. Look, I said this when Twitter went away and X came in. You did this to yourself, man. You were the whole reason that people wanted you gone and somebody else to take over. And I'll tell you right now, the community notes, while I don't always agree with them on X, more often than not are pretty unbiased. It works. Having a community of people means from all walks of life working together is a lot better than one or two people deciding who gets to hear what.
Jack Dorsey kicked me off Twitter because I retweeted about the Hunter Biden laptop, which was 100% accurate.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a million examples as to how we got here, but this is why we're here now. And the number one reason that people in this country freak out about social media censorship is it is the new town square. It is where you can go to converse, except when you have former members of the Department of Justice working in the censorship departments of these social media companies with their friends in Washington, calling them every day saying, don't let them say that. Don't let them say that. Don't let them say that. That is no longer free speech.
And the FBI, Facebook.
Toll for power and for profit. Must hold the social platforms accountable.
We have.
To protect our children.
That's why Jack Dorsey's gone.
And our very democracy from the abuse of power.
That's why Zuckerberg's on his knees.
Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risks for our economy and our security, our society, for humanity. Artificial intelligence even has the potential to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it. But unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work, and how we protect our nation.
Stop for a second.
We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy.
Here's Google's AI. AI, Google, or see whatever the hell it was. Show me or draw me a picture of a pilgrim, a black female. Hey, show me or draw me a picture of a prize fighter that was in Raging Bull, black female.
Well, sometimes it does get it right, because I just asked, as we were speaking about it, Grok over on X to show me a picture of Joe Biden eating pudding, looking confused.
Okay.
Look at, though, I never mentioned my show's name. Look at what's behind him on the wall. Like,
that's
right?
Pretty scary.
Is that not amazing? So it took into account the account that asked for it. Isn't that absolutely incredible? And I am saving that one.
Oh, hell yes. Of course
as
you are.
we speak. Because when I made it, I was like, oh, this would be a funny goof. And then I looked and I'm like, wait a second. That says Edge of Liberty in the background. So now Biden has been on the Edge of Liberty.
Oh, okay. Just as an aside, very quickly, AI has been accessible through Grok, through X for, I don't know, what, a year now, roughly?
Yeah, a little bit over that, I think.
Oh, okay, roughly. Let's say roughly a year. What's it going to look like? What's AI's capability going to be in another year, 3 years, 5 years?
Who knows?
It's going to be geometric.
Oh, it's going to be unbelievable. And look, I don't want AI being used in places where it counts. I don't want it to be in charge of nuclear weapons. I don't want it to be in charge of certain things like that. Only because I always think there should be a person there who has the moral compass to make decisions, right? That's what it comes down to. That being said, exactly. Look, I mean, there's reports of an AI robot in Russia who escaped several times from its facility. It can be dangerous, and there needs to be the ability to safeguard it. I don't disagree with that. However, AI can also be a hell of a lot of fun. And if it's maintained, and look, you and I both know the version of AI that we're getting and we're able to interact with is not the absolute limit that's out there. It's not the full throttle AI that's out there.
I have a question though. How come everything that I ask Grok to make and to illustrate, it tells me, I'm sorry, I can't do that?
I will tell you that they have filters on there.
You bet they do.
Right. And I look, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm okay with that. AI is not free speech. It's not being throttled. It's not throttling your ability to go out and speak your mind. It's saying, hey, you want to use our free AI, there's some rules with that. I'm okay with that, right? Because you're not censoring me. I can still prove that point another way, but it is one of their biggest things that they worry about is that it'll be misused amongst children or against children. Perfect example, and I was told to test this, and I did. I uploaded a picture of myself into Grok, asked it to
really, you can do that.
Yes, asked it to explain myself, and it just gave me a very generic white guy, blah 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 blah. Uploaded a photo of my munchkin to Grok. It would not do anything with it. Nothing. It wouldn't comment on it. It wouldn't even show the picture there. It showed an X because it said that is a child and we don't play that game.
You're braver than I am.
There was a face blocked out. But it knew it was a child by the picture because you could just tell it's a child in that picture. And I said, interesting, because somebody said it won't do anything with kids. And I wanted to test that theory, and it didn't. It didn't do a damn thing. It wouldn't even show the picture it uploaded.
Okay.
So I'm glad there are safeguards like that in place. Let's go back to Biden. I can't believe he was on the edge of liberty.
He was. I didn't know. That's so cool.
All humankind. In the age of AI, it's more important than ever that the people must govern. And as the land of liberty, America, not China, must lead the world in the development of AI. You know, in the years ahead, it'll help to be, it's going to be up to the president, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, the free press, and the American people to confront these powerful forces. We must reform the tax code, not by giving the biggest tax cuts to billionaires, but by making them begin to pay their fair share.
They already are.
Yeah.
We need dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaigns contributions.
Like your entire campaign was. Your entire campaign was dark money.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is stopping all the Democrats and leftists from writing bigger checks to the government?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
You can pay anything you want.
You complain about it. You write about it.
Put your money where your mouth
Do
is.
it. Just shut up and do it.
People don't know that. You're allowed to overpay your taxes.
Oh,
You're allowed to give
yeah.
as much money as you want to the government, and they'll take it happily. I never see them do it. It's weird. It's almost like they don't want to.
I don't get it. Weird.
We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18-year term limit, time and term, for the strongest ethics and the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court.
He's getting tired. He's starting to get a little tired. He's
He's
muzzling some words out, and that's okay. But what he was trying to say is he wants an 18-year term limit on the Supreme Court justices, which is fine from his point of view right now because the Supreme Court is in the balance of the conservatives. It wouldn't be okay if it was the other way around.
And everything is cyclical.
Exactly.
We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress.
Because he's already made his money making
That's
stocks.
right. I'm moving on. I'm leaving. I'm okay.
Now it's
I'm
okay.
Cool.
And look, I'm for that. But by the way,
hell yeah.
I don't disagree, but it is absolutely hysterical that all of a sudden now he's walking out the door. He's like, oh, and by the way, you guys shouldn't do everything I did for 50 years.
Yeah, horse meat barn. By the way, I should care to point out the only reason that we have Joe Biden, Joe Vegetable, in there right now is because Bernie Sanders was going to set the DNC and
On
DC
fire.
and everyone and the Democrats on fire by limiting funds, by limiting donations. And the DNC went, Joe, where are you? Come on in. So you got Joe Vegetable because of the exact same thing that this guy is accusing us of. That's how you got there.
It's amazing.
We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office.
Now,
Joe.
I'll tell you right now, we all know that if the investigation was done properly into Biden and his business affairs with Hunter, we all know that there would have been wrongdoings. Look, when he was vice president, the quid pro quo with the former president of Ukraine to get rid of the attorney general that was going after the gas company over there, Burisma, and the board of Burisma because they were doing a bunch of shady shit. And they were going to drop the hammer on him. And Joe Biden said to the Ukrainian president at the time, look, you're supposed to be getting all this money, but if I get on that plane tomorrow and you haven't fired that attorney general, you're not going to get it.
That's on video. That's on
That's
video.
on video.
That's on
and
video.
He was protecting his son.
Well, I speak leftist. So here's essentially what it means to Pam Bondi during the hearing today. This is what they really wanted to say. Well, we don't want you in there if you don't promise that you're not going to investigate the shit that we do. If you're even going to hint that you're going to investigate in the past or the future any of the shit that we did, we're not going to confirm you. Get out of here.
Yep, I agree. And that's exactly what they said. Oh, by the way, BZ, look. I'm picking his nose. It's a very serious talk show. We're moving on.
The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute. And it shouldn't be.
Now.
And in
Now
a
that I'm no
democracy,
longer president.
there's another danger to the concentration of power and wealth. It erodes a sense of unity and common purpose. It causes distrust and division. Participating in our democracy becomes exhausting and even disillusioning. And people don't feel like they have a fair shot. We have to stay engaged in the process. I know it's frustrating. A fair shot is what makes America America. Everyone's entitled to a fair shot, not a guarantee, but just a fair shot, an even playing field, going as far as your hard work and talent can take you. We can never lose that essential truth, remain who we are. I've always believed, and I've told other world leaders, America can be defined by one word: possibilities. Only in America do we believe anything is possible. Like a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claremont, Delaware, sitting behind this desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. That's the magic of America.
I do, and the person who's doing the American Sign Language, I give a lot of credit to, even though I know they have the script, they have to keep up with this. But I went to another broadcast of this while it was ongoing to see what their ASL person who was just trying to keep up with them was doing, and this is what I got.
Oh, that seems markedly different to me. Although I can't say that my eyesight is necessarily all that great, but
Right?
it just looks different to me.
BZ, before
Sir?
I go back to Biden, for 5 shekels, can you name that movie?
No.
Airplane 2.
That was in it?
That was Airplane 2. Yep.
See, I'm fairly well versed in the original Airplane 2. Okay, you got me on that one.
Ah, see, pretty good. Here we go with Biden.
It's all around us. Upstairs, residence of the White House. I've walked by a painting of the Statue of Liberty, I don't know how many times. In the painting, there's several workers climbing on the outstretched arm of the statue that holds the torch. It reminds me every day I pass it of the story and soul of our nation and the power of the American people. There's a story of a veteran. This is a veteran, the son of an immigrant,
Really? Not
whose
kidding.
job was to climb that torch,
No joke.
polish the amber panes so rays of light could reach out as far as possible. He was known as the keeper of the flame. He once said of the Statue of Liberty, quote, speaks the silent universal language, one of hope that anyone who seeks and speaks freedom can understand.
Cheeto, welcome to the chat. We missed you, buddy. It was nice seeing
Yeah.
you.
You bet.
You know, what would be even more amazing, and Cheetah brought this up in the chat room, and I posted on the, he said, you know, is that Joe Biden or is that the AI version of Biden? And my response was this, and very simple. At this point, Joe has no individual thoughts in his head, and it is all fed to him one way or the other. So in a way, it is AI.
Pretty much.
Yes, we sway back and forth to withstand the fury of the storm, to stand the test of time. A constant struggle, a short distance between peril and possibility. But what I believe is the America of our dreams is always closer than we think. It's up to us to make our dreams come true. Let me close by stating my gratitude to so many people, to the members of my administration, as well as public service and first responders across the country and around the world. Thank you for stepping up to serve. To our service members and your families, it's been the highest honor of my life to lead you as Commander-in-Chief.
Not theirs.
Yeah.
And of course, to Kamala and our incredible partner.
You bastard. That's exactly what he wants to say.
Yeah.
She and Doug have become like family. And to me,
that family struck me in the back with a giant knife.
Is everything. Yeah. My deepest appreciation to our amazing First Lady who's with me in the Oval today. For our entire family.
Hold on. Sorry, I have to do this.
Okay.
Where is it? Oh, there it is. Doesn't he look like he wants to sniff the ASL woman right now?
Hey, baby. Your hair is pretty alluring.
Be in the Oval today. For our entire family. You're the love of my life and the life of my love. My eternal thanks to you, the American people.
What?
After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all. And may God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
What happened to and God bless the United States of America?
Yeah, that really didn't make much sense.
And
the first thing he said when they shut off the mic is, "Can I get tomato soup? I want tomato soup on Tuesday."
So there was an expert that was brought on. Yeah. And this was his response.
What?
This is actually the guy that wrote the Biden speech, if we're being honest. That's
Yes.
BZ.
Sir.
Traditionally, and maybe I'm wrong, but traditionally a farewell to the nation speech is not about shitting all over everybody. And sorry, I'm just laughing at Cheetah's comment in chat. Do you recall that being part of the farewell speech? Isn't it usually thank you to the people who supported me, thank you to the country, thank you for this is what we did, have a nice day, peace, I'm out.
Yeah, it's not, by the way, if you don't continue with the same shit that I've been doing, your country's doomed.
Right. It blows my mind. And then for him to talk about Kamala as much, when I don't know if you saw this, and I know we're over time and we got to go, but there's just, I want to share this with you too. And then let me pull this off. There we go.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw Lady McBiden's comments. Here it is. This was in an interview. Oh, why isn't that being shared on screen?
I'm actually Joe Biden's speechwriter. I wrote his speech. It was a great speech, wasn't
it? In this, she was some article. I don't even know what the article is, but they're highlighting all the different comments from Biden stepping down, as they say, and Pelosi's thoughts being, it's up to Biden to decide if he's going to run, even though Biden had already decided he was going to stay in the race. And then now Jill says, like I said, see in the green room of the White House, first Sunday of January, I've been thinking a lot about our relationships, plural. And then one of her other comments down the very bottom, as she was talking about tea, it's been on my mind a lot lately. And Jill pauses. We were friends for 50 years. It was very disappointing. It was disappointing. She's discussing Nancy Pelosi. So even publicly, they're now starting to throw barbs. They're going scorched earth.
You can tell. All you need to do is look at the body language.
Yep. And there is no doubt in my mind that Kamala was part of that. No doubt in my mind that Kamala was part of that.
Oh, sure. And Pelosi was.
Oh, Pelosi was the spearhead.
Oh, sure.
She was the dagger.
Kamala was willing to hold the knife. It was Pelosi who convinced Kamala to hold the knife. And then she instructed Kamala, okay, right between the 4th and 5th intercostal on the right side. When you insert the Fairbairn stiletto, push in and then up, directly up towards the heart. That's how you do it. Go.
So it's just, it amazes me that what we saw happen in real time, the amount of douchebaggery that took place in DC. And look, I'm no fan of Joe Biden by any stretch of the imagination. I think she should be charged with elder abuse for putting him out there the last 4 years. I think she is part of the cabal that was making decisions, even though she was not elected to do so. I think that she is a horrible, horrible human being. That being said, it kills me and makes me so happy to watch them just run around and attack each other. It really is just amazing, because eventually your chickens come home to roost. And all of the misdoing and the fact that she hid everything about him during the election and allowed it to happen, allowed him to run knowing he was mentally debilitated, knowing that he's a sick man, hide him, which, remember the basement campaign, they hid him for a reason. We all know it. It makes me so happy to watch them fall apart and fight.
He should have just been allowed to sniff his grandchildren's hair and enjoy his dotage.
Yes.
In someplace in Delaware.
Yes.
Enjoy your retirement, dude. Just go ahead and enjoy it. Just stay out of the limelight. But there's hope. Can I help to end this show on a positive note?
Yes.
Okay. There's hope. AOC is saying, and kind of lost her shit in the process of saying it, trans women are real women. And what that tells me is they haven't learned a thing. And the new breed, the young breed, her and all the others like her, haven't learned either. And they're going to continue on that path. Oh, please, God, please. Yes. Yes. Have them continue on that path. Thank you very much.
I love it. And like I said, Biden's this whole thing was a ramble. It was
worst speech ever.
The things that he was saying and the attacks that he was making under the guise of warnings. It's just, I'll tell you, everyone has said that Biden is one of the biggest douchebags in Washington, D.C., and how he was a jerk all those years behind closed doors. And this whole image that he's this super nice, empathetic guy is just that. It was a fake image that they have put together to make him electable. But you're seeing the true colors, as Cheetah said in the chat, surface. And I think it'll get worse. I want them to interview him in like 6 months when he's really angry and has nothing to lose, because I guarantee you it's going to be a lot worse. Before we go, we talked earlier about Bass and Newsom and everything. This is CNN.
For nothing.
Look at the headline.
think this has.
CNN analysis finds major firefighting staffing shortfall in Los Angeles. When CNN is reporting it, you know it's bad.
LAFD has 400 engines. I should not say 400 engines. They have 400 pieces of apparatus. Roughly half, almost 200 pieces of apparatus were not available to be used because they were in the shop, unavailable for usage due to repair needs. And also they can't hire mechanics and repair people because those positions were deleted. Imagine that.
Imagine that. And look, our well wishes are with the people of Los Angeles who were affected by these fires. It's horrible. It's horrific. We hope the state and cities do the right things by you. And only time will tell.
Let's not stop there. Let's absolutely not stop there. We have completely forgotten about the people in Lahaina.
Oh, yeah.
We have completely forgotten
North
about
Carolina
in East Palestine.
Yep.
We have completely forgotten about the people affected by Hurricane Helene.
Yep.
They are still having cadaver dogs trying to find people that are buried, literally, which was at one point mud. Now it's hard rock 10 feet under mud, bodies gone for probably quite some time. They have no place to live. They have no possessions, and it's snowing and 20 degrees.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrific.
And FEMA's gone. FEMA's gone.
Yep, FEMA pulled out. They're gone.
Bye.
Kicked people out of hotels last week. Out of hotels into a snowstorm.
And we don't work on the weekends.
Well, federal government job and all.
Yeah.
You take it for the benefits. Unfreaking believable. Folks, you've been listening to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. BZ, tell everybody where they can find you, kind sir.
Thanks to this guy right over here. This guy. Do you see this guy right over here? This guy. Look at my finger. Look at my finger. This guy right over here. Shaun, Sackhead Shaun. His show is going to be Monday.
Yes.
And Wednesdays now.
Yes.
8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. Edge of Liberty. Now, new days, Mondays and Wednesdays at night. Not during the day, not at noon. Edge of Liberty. This show right here. With that guy, Sackhead Shaun, right here. Him. Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Which guy? That guy right
This guy
there.
right here.
That's him.
And I have the ability, now that I'm back at night, I can let my hair down a little bit more and say things like shit and not have to worry about it. Yes.
No.
BZ,
So
tell where we can find you, my friend.
Oddly enough, it's strange that I am also a late night guy and a late night show. I am on Tuesday and Thursday nights right here on the SHR Media Network and all the other cool places. My bulbosity is just, it's out there for everybody to partake of. Also, Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow night, I'm having an individual named Suzanne Monk called @Trumpertarian on X. And she's going to talk about her J6 prisoner project, where her goal is to attempt to have, if J6 prisoners are pardoned, she wants to have a family member or someone positive there to greet the people when they are released. That is majorly aspirational. She's going to tell us about J6, about what happened, about how many of these prisoners were secreted away in places away from D.C. purposely so that the families could not find them. It's just like the Gulag Archipelago. Go read Solzhenitsyn's book. It's huge. It's massive. I have done it, but they went and hid Americans who still haven't even appeared in front of a court for some misdemeanors 4 years hence. This is what communist countries do.
Yes.
Listen, tomorrow night.
Please check that out. And the cool part is, BZ, is on Tuesday and Thursdays, they have you. Monday nights, they have me. Friday and Wednesday nights, they have me. But also on Monday nights, you have Joe at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. the East Coast, and Friday, 6. So you will have SHR broadcasting 5 days a week and sometimes twice in one day.
And
of course, Tuesday and Thursday during the day,
Mission Ready Men.
You have Mission Ready Men with Big E.
Bingo.
So,
boom.
Literally, you can get a full day of SHR Media, which is just fantastic.
And thanks to KLRN for simulcasting our stuff and rebroadcasting our stuff.
If you don't have a chance to check out KLRN on X, they're on YouTube as well. They're on Spreaker. They have great hosts, and it's not just politics. Actually, I love they do a cold case and murder mystery show that's really good. There's a Dungeons and Dragons show that's on the weekends that's really good. Like, they have some really cool non-political stuff that you just got to check them out. Rick does a great job with the team over there. We enjoy and appreciate the fact that we've been simulcast with our friends over there, and really take the time and go check them out. You won't be disappointed. BZ,
muy grande, delicioso, Rick Robinson, KLRN.
BZ, sir.
Yes.
We will see you tomorrow night. Thank you so much for joining me.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And for me, you can follow me on X. You can follow me on number 2 Against Tyranny. We're on Facebook, Twitch, wherever you're watching from. Please like this show and subscribe to the network if you haven't so far. It would mean the world to us. It really helps us out. Like and subscribe, share it, tell it to your friends. Even if you hate me, like, subscribe, and then come yell at me in the chat room. You can buy me here a cup of coffee or over BZ's head, which is more importantly, some bourbon. So please, if you're so inclined, if you have a big heart, I'd greatly appreciate it. I'll see you Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific. Oh, no, wait.
What?
Today's Wednesday. I'll see you Monday night, 8 p.m. Pacific.
I still love you, man. I love you, man.
Oh, love you too, brother.
I'm the guy that's supposed to be doing that shit. I'm 74. I have no excuse. Well, no, I have every
Dude, this was
excuse.
supposed to be a 1-hour show tonight that went 2.5 hours. You're gonna give me a break. I know. I'll see you Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Edge of Liberty. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night.
Aloha.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Shaun from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.